Hey friends, it's me, the Ebony Otaku, the well-rounded nerd. I'm doing a little bit different of a video today. I'm going to try voiceover while I do some painting on my Emperor's Children Terminators. So if you've been following my channel for a while, you know I've wanted to do painting videos where you actually got to see some of the process. I see so many cool videos out there online where people are able to have these great camera setups, but I don't have a great camera setup yet. I'm still searching for some equipment that I want, but you know what? There's no time like the present, so we do nothing if we don't try. And I've done some other experimental videos that worked out pretty well. So I decided to go ahead and give this a try. So what you're looking at here, I had some pretty close to finished Terminators and I moved them off to let them dry while I work on another batch. So the ones you're looking at here, I actually primed them probably a week before this video was filmed. I actually primed them on the sprue, which is that thing that when you see the bits and pieces from Warhammer all connected to before you cut them out and make them figures. I've never done that before, but the Terminators have a pretty unique look to them and they're pretty uniform. So I was like, I'll just prime them all at once, try it. Then I base coated them in Emperor's Children purple. And then I actually went over them with a wash just to give that purple just a little bit deeper of a look because these are Chaos Emperor's Children. So they can't look super clean. If you know much about the Emperor's Children, Fulgrim is the Space Marine Primarch who sees himself as the most beautiful, the most perfect. Like he's all about perfection, the glitz, the glam. They are basically the RuPaul's Drag Race of the Space Marine chapter. They are the best in their own heads. But all of the Space Marines are spectacular, but he just thinks he's the most spectacular. And they are all about the glitz, the glam, the beauty. They are the Space Marine chapter that actually let the Remembrancers in willingly to record all of their feats. And I wanted to make sure that my painting of their armor matched that. So with the ones I'd already completed, I set one down so I could make sure I matched the look. So I kind of paint in groups of 5. And that keeps me on track because most squads are of 5 or 10 Marines. So if I do it that way, I know that as I'm playing the game, I have enough of each type of squad. This particular set is actually from my Horus Heresy Age of Darkness box. And I decided to make all 10 of these Terminators Chaos Emperor's Children. Here's why. Follow me, follow me. There's a reason I did that. Like I know that the Terminator squads are only supposed to be 5 each. Well, guess what? They get 2 now because there is a Dreadnought in the box and there is also a Spartan tank. I gave the Spartan tank to my Emperor's Children, but the other army I'm going to build out of this box will be Loyalist Salamanders. And if you know the lore of the Dreadnoughts, they are a really particular type of Marine. You're basically entombed in a walking sarcophagus for all your days if you are a dreadnought. So you will fight for the Emperor or Chaos in perpetuity. And a lot of the Chaos dreadnoughts came to be because they were taken off the battlefield. And in their last moments, Chaos Space Marines entombed them in a dreadnought. And because I know the lore, I simply cannot be part of creating a Chaos dreadnought. But wait, it's all fiction. Yes, it is. And it's a universe that I'm thoroughly enveloped in. So part of the reason I'm trying out these videos is to show people in real time what it takes to paint these and that mistakes happen. So I try to be a pretty meticulous painter. If you're looking at my fingernails and judging them, go ahead. There's paint all over them, glue all over them. And when I'm in the middle of doing this much painting, just real talk, there's no point in having your nails done. There isn't. They're jagged because, well, they're not getting cut off right now. They're getting bitten off. That I'm also, the week that I'm filming this, I'm also going camping. So there's still no reason to do my nails where you're going to be traipsing around in the woods and cutting down logs and stuff like that. But the process of painting and building, you're going to get paint on your hands. You're going to get glue on your hands. And I like having my nails done, but it ruins your manicure. It just does. So when I'm in the middle of doing this much painting, I see no point in having my nails done. I do have gloves that I paint in, but right now with the wash that's on there, the wash and the gloves don't like each other. So You know, you keep acetone in your house and you can get glue and paint off of your hands. So what I'm letting you see here right now is that mistakes can be made. So if you look on the other Space Marine there in the back of the Terminator, that gold line is much thinner that I just painted there, and I made a mistake. So what I'm doing is I made that mistake and on purpose and made that line thicker because I kind of went over the border that I intended to paint, but it's now going to be the legs of a squad captain. So theirs can just be wider and brighter. And on the next one, I'll be a little more careful because of the way I've got the camera set up. It was a little hard for me to see perfectly, but that's okay. As someone who paints very meticulously, it can take me a long time to paint something, far longer than it probably should. But I've tried some new techniques. So with this one, you know, back to how I primed them on the sprue, and I did their base coat off of the sprue. So I primed them, then I cut them out, then I did their base coat. Those two things were done with an airbrush. I've never airbrushed my base coat. When I did my kill team that was Chaos Word Bearers, Lorgar the Aurelian, we love him. I actually painted every single panel individually. So I did not spray on a base coat. So like you see all of this purple, I would have done all of that by hand on the Word Bearers kill team because I thought the only way to get absolute perfection, I guess I am well aligned with the Emperor's Children in that respect. I thought the only way to get absolute perfection was to paint every single panel individually. And painting that way, I'm not going to lie, between work and other activities, it took me like 5 months to complete those. And now these Terminators you're watching me paint here, because one of the things I noticed with those Marines is when I put the washes on, the Nuln oil and other things, and when I put them together, a lot of my mistakes were either covered or looked like they were supposed to be a part of the finished look all along. So I decided, at the advice of my husband, yes, there are wives out there that can hear their husbands and take feedback. I'm one of them. He suggested that I try base coating in my main color and then going and doing the edges and other colors, and then letting those washes and highlights really pick up and hide some of the errors. So I tried that this time, and the first 5 are done. And from priming to completing them, our little friend there in the back, less than a week. So I can't say he was incorrect. It was less than a week to go from plastic to product that way. So the system obviously works. So I think for this Horus Heresy box, as I keep completing my armies, that's what I'm going to do. Because I've actually got a goal. The day I'm recording this, I believe, let's see, I did the actual video last night, and during the day I'm doing the voiceover commentary. So last night I believe was the 29th, and today is the 30th of April. So as I filmed this last night, I was looking at different angles. I was trying to figure out, well, how can I show people, you know, what it really takes? Because you'll notice I've not changed brushes yet. I've got a few brushes that have very nice tips on them, and that's one of the things I've noticed. Like I do have tons of brushes, you know, when I get to painting the tank and bigger items, you know, I've got brushes that I don't mind that can be wrecked and thrown away, but this particular brush is a really good one, and it doesn't have particularly long bristles, but the bristles come to a really good point, which means I can load it up and paint and then push that paint around to get it into the edges and cracks. So the colors I chose for the Terminators is I did base them in the Emperor's Children purple, and they're getting highlighted and etched with gold, and they get kind of a dirty look to them at the end with the Nuln oil. I use a little bit of the Pro Acryl they've got this really nice glittery technical metallic medium, and you can wash that over anything and it gives it kind of a nice iridescent sheen. I wanted that feeling of Emperor's Children, but they have fallen to chaos. So when I finished painting the first 5 and I looked at them, they were so beautiful, like they were glistening. But to be chaos, they were too glistening. That's part of the process of being turned to chaos, is everything that was beautiful and glistening and made for perfection. You can literally see the abandonment of reason, the soiling of the soul is on them. So I had to go back and then give them basically a little bit of a dirty up at the end. So I've actually got 2 types of gold I'm using here. With my Marines, I primarily use Citadel paints. There's only a couple of of other brands that I use, not because those brands are bad. Pro Acrylic paints are actually very, very good. The Citadel paints are very, very good. And the reason I use Citadels is because I know I'm getting the exact colors for what I'm painting. She got into Warhammer for the lore. I didn't get into Warhammer to play the game. The game just finally caught up with me over some years. I tried playing the game when I was younger. After reading Eisenhorn, which was the first Space Marine novel I got into, really loved it. Have reread it a couple of times. It's an exciting adventure every single time. Highly recommend it. Then Abnet is a treasure, and we must protect him at all cost. But I didn't get into it for the game. The first few times I tried making armies, I had some successes, but more failures than successes. So I never considered actually making my own army. But now that I've moved, I'm in a different place, I'm looking at different hobbies with my family, I got back into it. Now I'm really enjoying it. But for the most part, you will see me using the Citadel paints so that I can have the colors, because I do read a lot of the lore. So I'm one of those people that just wants that look and feel to know it's correct. Everybody doesn't have to do that, though. There's lots of great brands out there. And Citadel, from what I understand, which, you know, is the production arm of our friends in the Warhammer universe, they don't, in the Games Workshop, I don't believe they produce primers. So, except for a few cans, like the Ultramarines have a canned primer, but not like in these little paint pots or anything like that that you could put into like a one of the little spray painters or anything like that, an airbrush or anything. So I just went ahead and used the Pro Acrylic because it comes in nice bottles, and Pro Acrylic is a great brand. It adheres really nicely. It goes on really smooth. And when using it with other brands, I find that it mixes really, really well. But what you're seeing here is I've actually, I'm using two different types of gold on the bodies of these Space Marines, just to give just a slight bit of difference. If you look there, you can see just all of these itty bitty little impression details. I did attempt to go back on one of them and highlight the rivets, and I did it, and then I stepped back and looked at it, and I didn't like it. I thought, oh, it's got all these little rivets in there. Which, had it been a different paint scheme, like maybe if I was, maybe the Salamanders, that would work, or maybe Ultramarines, highlighting every rivet would work. But for these, because of the colors I chose, the rivets don't work. So you also see a lot of pinks and grays back there. If you know much about Fulgrim, the Phoenician, the most beautiful in his own head of the Primarchs, when truly Sanguinius is the most beautiful. He's the angel. You know, he's got wings. You can't beat the brother with the wings when it comes to looks, but in Fulgrim's own head, he's the most beautiful. His flagship color is the purple and the gold, but there's also a Fulgrim pink, which I love because my personal favorite color is pink. If I can't get it in pink, I'll take it in teal. But because there is specifically a Fulgrim pink, when I do the Space Marines, the actual like troops, the foot soldiers, not Terminators, a whole different type of soldier here, they're going to be base coated in Fulgrim pink. Yes, they are. So I'm going to have to prime them in white. So that's another thing I've learned, that if you want to get a particular effect with your figures, the priming and base coating makes a big deal. So all of these were primed in black. And there actually is a really good black that they have in Citadel paints, and that would be the Abaddon black. If you've ever seen Abaddon black, it is like looking into the soul of a dead star. It is blackety black, black and black. It is black. And I have used that for big washes of black, and on the bottoms of all of the feet of my Space Marines, I actually do paint all of those black so that they look good when I glue them to their stands, and I keep the stands black. For a lot of stuff that I paint that are one-off little minifigures, I do end up painting the stands. I think it completes the look, but for my Marines, I love the way they look on those little black stands. So now you see I'm trying to really get into the lip. Yes, these do have heads. When I did a couple of shorts on the builds of these Marines, folks were commenting, well, where's the head? It's not in there yet. I've primed the head and I've base coated the head at this point, but the head is not yet inserted. That way you can see on this one it's finished. You can see the head inserted. I painted that apart from the Terminator so I could get the detail that I wanted. I could get that inside lip of the helm painted and then stick the head in. Will anybody see that? No, but I know it's there. And that's what matters most. So you'll notice that this piece I thought I'd finished, I had to pick it back up because I looked at my template piece and there was a bit that I missed. So one of the hard things to do, especially when you're dealing with like an Emperor's Children, is knowing when to stop. It is so easy to keep embellishing, keep embellishing, keep embellishing. But if you keep doing that, which is kind of what I did on my Word Bearers Kill team, I just kept embellishing and I couldn't figure out when to make myself stop so that I could actually use the figures and play games with them. You got to figure out when enough is enough. So I actually tested several times what I wanted this final look to be. Like one was too much gold. Where should I put that metallic medium wash? Where should the purple wash go? When should the Nuln oil go on? Should I use the Berserker blood shade or a different type of red? There are so many options. And I think that's part of what makes Warhammer so much fun is even though there are 18 armies and, 2 left over for lore reasons, if you know, you know, even though there are so many armies and there is uniformity when you're building any kind of troop, any kind of army, there's that element of individuality because the way that I end up painting in my skill level is going to make my Marines match me. There is a particular painter that I've met at the hobby shop we go to who is beyond good. Last night we were at a paint party. So our favorite hobby shop once a month, they have an event where they print figures. You can buy the figures and you can use their paints, their brushes, and sit there and paint. And then you talk to people. It's a nice social time. And we did that last night, and I came home and did some more space marining, which is where this video came from. But we were painting these really cool, like whimsical spring figures, like mushroom people and tree spirits, that type of thing. And he was there, and he was there with a date, and he has been one who was so good at painting that they put his stuff on display at the store. Like he's one of those painters that you aspire to be able to paint like that. He has a very steady hand. He knows what brushes, exactly how much paint to put on the brush, but that comes from years and years of practice. And when we were at the paint party last night, they were sitting at a table edge where you had to walk by them to get to the paints, him and his party. And when we first walked by, his little figure didn't look like much. And then we walked by again, and it looked like it was starting to come to life. But then the third time, he had completely brought it to life and was individually, line by line, adding shadow and detail. I painted my figure pretty well that night, and I did put it up on my page as an image from that night, but I had to do a lot of wash mixing to get that level of detail in that amount of time, and he could freehand it. That's impressive. But that only happens after lots of practice, trial and error. And there are so many techniques. Like I said, I tried a new technique this time that I hadn't done before. I had never considered just painting all one color and then going in and adding individual details. The way I would have done this before, you see how I'm just, painting that collar. That's a slightly different gold than the first one. Just a little bit of contrast. It's got like a little bit of a pinkish tinge to it. Because, you can go too far with gold, but gold and purple are a fulcrum thing. Pink, gold, purple, those are his colors. That's his jam. But as I'm putting that detail on, you can see that there are some mistakes. And with my last set of Space Marines, when I did my word bearers, I would have gone back and fixed that like immediately. Like every line would have had to be perfect. But I'm letting the wash fix it. I'm letting the next layer of paint correct my mistakes instead of going back and doing those individual lines. And I know over time I'm actually getting better. Like, see this itty bitty insert in this hand, like on their gloves, there's a little bit of lining on most of them. And that ribbed lining, I highlight. And that part where the gauntlet meets the joint, I highlight that as well. And I did the same thing on my Word Bearer's Kill team. It's just in a more bronzy color instead of gold. I was very meticulous the first time around that I did that. And just doing those pieces, oh goodness, that was, 2 weeks of my life, just painting those little bits. But now I know I'm not going to be inside of the lines, but what's going to happen once I get the gold bits done is I'm going to be coming back and dropping Nuln oil in there. Nuln oil is kind of a translucent black wash is the best I can say it, so it will get down in the grooves. Sometimes it covers, sometimes it just highlights, depending on how you paint it on. And that final bit of Nuln oil gives that grimy look that I want to show that these are denizens of chaos, that they are not pristine, perfect Emperor's children anymore, but they've been taken in by the ruinous powers. So it takes a lot, it's taking a lot of resistance for me here to not want to just go for full perfection. But then also when you start gluing them together and you put your shoulder pieces on and the arms and all that, a lot of that mistake is going to get hidden anyway. It will be under something else. What I want to do, part of the reason I go all the way around, is that depending on the posing that you do for your figure, you may or may not be able to see under particular joints, or the glue might stick out a little bit, that kind of thing. So I like to be able to have that color to tell me what should be there. That way, when I position into their final movement, then I can either match the color or know that a seam is going to cover up that mistake. So I got to pick him up and look at him again, and then decide, okay, there's more that needs to be done here. Have I missed any gold? And I missed some gold that was on the belt, which was the original gold color that I was using. So I got to pick him up and flip him over. And make sure, so like down there, the insert in the leg, Space Marine armor is different plates put together to create the armor. If you've ever seen like medieval armor, same concept, but space with blasters instead of swords and shields. So I had to make sure that I got all of those little bits matching the same way they would on all of the other Marines. Now, please keep in mind, again, this is an experimental video. I've not done a voiceover with painting or anything like that before. So I'm just testing to see if I even can do this and if this kind of content will actually work for my channel. One of the things I want to be sure of as I continue to grow on YouTube, and thank you to everyone who's made it this far in the video. You made it 20 minutes of me just rambling, so thank you. But I want to make sure that I do things that, yes, of course, will hit the algorithm. But I also want to make sure that I do things that I enjoy doing. Because when you stop enjoying something, when things stop being fun, then there's no point to continue to do it. You should have fun in your hobbies, in your endeavors, even in business. I guess we'll have nerdy inspiration moment here since I've gone there. This was a work day that was really long for me. I had a class that started at 8:30 in the morning, and it was a 2.5-hour class, and then I had back-to-back meetings. Then I had to go to the gym, but I find ways, even in the stuff I have to do, to make it fun and enjoyable for me. So this morning in my class, I was teaching a conversation skills class. How do we create groups and teams that make better decisions together. And we do that by making space for people to have diversity of idea, diversity of thought. But I had a lot of fun with it. When the class started, y'all have seen what's behind me on my desk. There were people asking about what was back there and had a little bit of banter about that, let them know, yeah, it's mostly Transformers and Sailor Moon, but there's all kinds of properties hanging out behind my head. But when it was time to, get into the work of conversation, I use humor, I use life examples to help bring people in and let them know that the things I'm teaching are also things that I practice in my day-to-day, and that when you show up to work, you should be able to smile and have a little kiki and a ha-ha once in a while, because we spend a lot of time at work with our coworkers, whether that's in the home or you actually have to go out into a place of business or service. So it should be fun. Even the stuff we have to do. Like, people get upset when they see doctors and nurses or police officers, people in those kinds of roles, who smile or laugh or seem to be enjoying life, but they need to. Everyone needs to find humor. You know, people who perform funeral services, I hope they can find reasons to smile and laugh, because they deal with the hardest part of life. But yet, that was inspirational, nerdy moment. Find those things that make you smile and happy. So now I'm using that Pro Acryl metallic medium. I'm just focusing on one figure. Typically what I would do is go through and do one color at a time, but because I'm recording this for other people to see, I'm being a little bit more orderly about it. So you see those little 5 piles of pieces? Those are 5 different Marines, 5 different Terminators. The box in the back is a tackle box that I got from, you know, my favorite store, apparently, the Walmart, which, incidentally, I never went to Walmart in my previous town. It was a much different store. But the ones here where I moved to are pretty great. So I'm in there more than I used to be. Which is fine for me. Their jobs are jobs. I support all the jobs, local and corporate, because I am corporate myself. So I support your job no matter what it is. But that tackle box has dividers in it, and so as I'm painting, notice that they're not together yet. For me to get the maximum effect, I keep the pieces separate and then join them together before I put final washes on. So I can take the pieces for each Marine and stick them in a slot, and they're auto separated, and I super love that. But I'm just working on one Marine right in here, but now I'm putting on that metallic medium, and look at that iridescence it gives it. Once it dries, you can see that it's purple, but you can also see a metallic sheen. It is such a unique look. And when I discovered using it, I was like, well, once you go Pro Quill, you can't go back. So this is the main part that I'm using it on. I love it in the back of those legs. There's this plating on the back of the Terminator legs that I couldn't just leave purple. I did test painting this gold, and me and my husband, we sit next to each other in his office to paint. That's where all our painting stuff is, because y'all see my office. We are not painting in here. There are too many things to destroy. So that doesn't happen in here. But when we did the gold, I looked back and I was just like, oh, it was too much. Even though it's Emperor's Children and they're over the top, like, it was over the top, over the top. So I had to rein it back in. So I re-purpled over it, re-washed over it. And then I actually tested a mixture of silver, metallic medium, a little bit of paint thinner, just all kinds of ways. And this is what I settled on, just straight up applying the metallic medium. And once it dries, it has this beautiful iridescence to it that makes it look like metal and gives it that glisten that you expect from the Emperor's Children, gives it that sheen. So that's a finished product there. So I'm just held it up so you could compare. But then I'm also taking a look to make sure I get all of the same pieces with the iridescence in the finished product. So we're doing pretty good. And again, that's why I like this particular brush. I'll have to look up the brand of it. I'm not even sure it's a brand. I think it might be one that we just got at the Hobby Lobby, honestly. I have found sets of brushes that I really enjoy, and we use that brush saver soap, so that little container hidden behind my hand on the left part of the screen when you see it, that is brush saver soap, and you only ever need one container for like 5 years. But you dip your brush in the water and then you roll it through and pull that point back onto your brush, and it completely washes out paint. Rinse it out again, and then I've got paper towel laid out and I pull my brush through it and twist it to dry it, and that's how I keep points on my brushes, and that's how I can keep the same brush for a really long time. Yep, so I'm happy with him. So now we're going to start adding the wash. So I made some mistakes on this bit, but check it out as I start putting the wash in. Is that not a glorious color? It is so great. Now, why would I have a wash on top of a wash? That was the only way I could get the color to look the way I wanted it to. This may not be the color that you're going for. You might want more of a matte finish, but notice as I put that gloss in where I made mistakes, it covers the mistakes. You can't see, you can see the iridescence, but you can't see the mistakes I made through the iridescence. So that's been hard for me to learn, to accept that the next step will fix the mistakes that I made in the previous step. That's been really difficult to come to terms with. but just a little bit at a time. I love the lightning bolts on here. That is such a nice touch. That part right there where we just painted right over a mistake and now it's gone. That looks good. And it just, again, it's giving it that, yeah, these are definitely Emperor's children. I will say things that have helped me. Magnifiers. I'm using an LED lamp over my figures right now, and that works really, really well. It has a magnifying glass built in, but I also have a headlamp with different levels of magnifiers that clip into it, kind of like glasses. I am a glasses wearer. When I use those, I take the glasses off and just go through the magnifying glass, but that helps me really be able to see the detail. So now I'm going to let those dry and just stick them back up, because the last thing I wanted to do in this video was actually mount these Space Marines. So I put magnets on the bottom because the tray that I put them on, my clear acrylic case, that way they magnetize and they don't flop around. I heard a really good hack was to get magnetized trays, the trays themselves being magnetized, and on those put like a washer or a bolt, something like that. That way if you're playing, you don't accidentally have them snap together. So far, the polarizations have not made mine snap together. I've been really good about that, but that's a really good hack that I'm going to try. So what I do first is place the Marine to make sure I know exactly what flat-footed looks like, and that is Gorilla Glue gel. If you're not an adult or have adult supervision, don't play around with this stuff, because what I'm going to do is put the Gorilla Glue gel on the feet of the Space Marine, and then I'm going to spray what's called Accelerator on that stand. So let's go ahead and gel up the feet. Notice that all the feet are painted black on the bottom, but I'm just making sure I know exactly where flat and center are before I do this, because with the Accelerator, it's an instant dry. So glue goes on the feet, and it's called gel for a reason, but we use this particular type of glue because I know I'm going to get a really good hold. It doesn't take much. The jar is a little gunky. I need to clean that out. Oh, that's terrible. I'm going to take it, wipe it off on the paper towel, and then come back and get a good bit of glue out. There we go. That is way better. So now that we've got a good bit of glue out, I'm going to spray some Accelerator directly on the stand. What that Accelerator does is it insta-sets the glue. That's why I have to know exactly where it stands. Now this stuff is fumey. Make sure you're in a ventilated room when you're doing this, or even do it outside, and then boom, we stick him down. He's instant done. That glue plus Accelerator, insta hold. And because they're painted, that's another reason I had to do this. The actual plastic glue, once you've painted over it, it doesn't really work that well. So like when I was putting these arms and shoulder pieces on, they were already painted. Some people will build their Marines completely, then paint them. I'm not that person. So when it comes to actually building them, I either have to glop on a lot of that plastic glue and then just leave them for a day for them to dry and cure, or I can do this. And for mounting them, boop, there we go. That turns out to be a really good option. So I'm super happy with that. I really like the ones with the claws. I think I made the most of them out of the set of 10 that I did. In the next 5, I think I have 3 more that've got the claws. I just love the look of them. I have heard tell of people putting magnets in the shoulders and stuff at the joints so they can change out their weapons. I might do that in the future. Because, you know, every type of weapon gives you a certain kind of point. Yeah, I messed up on gluing that gun. I used Accelerator and I shouldn't have done it until I had it perfectly seated, but you live, you learn, you live to try another day. And that's another thing, just as you're building and as you're getting good at this, just give yourself grace. Some people are perfect at it to begin with because they're artists, but the rest of us have to work hard and learn and try. I tell that to people in martial arts, like, don't look at some 10-year-old who is flexible because they're young and be jealous that you can't be like them. We all start from our own place and we're all on our own journey. It is not a competition. It is cooperation. And honestly, if you're happy with the product that you produce, well, then that's what matters. Do you look at what you've created and go, man, I really like that. I really enjoy that. This is what I wanted. Well, then you did it correctly. Maybe you'll learn different techniques. Maybe you'll learn better ways to do it over time. But if every time you start a project, you end up with a product that makes you smile, that makes you happy, that you're happy to go out and play the games with your people, well, then you did it correctly. So I just got one more left. Again, this stuff is really fumey, so make sure to do it. And I've got the ceiling fan going, and we've got a window open, but although you can't see that from here. Or even take this outside if you are one of those people who is real sensitive to the odors. And it's the accelerator that has the smell. It's not the glue, it's the accelerator. But one more spritz. And then we're going to slam him down, and he is stuck as soon as he touches. The last thing I'm going to do in this video is just add a little bit of a finishing touch of a little bit of a blood look. I know that there is a paint called Blood for the Blood God. I use Blood Angel's Contrast instead for two reasons. Because I wanted a deader blood look. I did not want the glossy Blood for the Blood God look. I wanted it to look like that they've been ripping through stuff and they just had the dried blood of their enemies on them. The other thing is that my Blood for the Blood God is missing. I honestly did intend to always use this particular paint, but I didn't know where the other one was. So, hey, I think we're coming to the end here of this particular video. I hope you enjoyed that. Give me some feedback. Tell me what you thought about this, because feedback is a gift, and I receive it with the spirit of generosity in which it is given. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one. I wish we could share photos on YouTube. I would love to see what you're painting. But find me on Instagram under the Ebony Otaku, and then there we at least can see what each other's painting. All right, I think that's the end of it. Thanks, everyone.